It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
We are back, and it is time for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast, brought to you by MidFirst Bank. Make sure you go to midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40 and sign up for the OU Rewards credit card because it's Christmas and you need a little extra cash in your pocket. They will give you $150 for the first $1,000 you put on that new bad boy, that OU credit card, in the first 90 days. So go check them out. All right, welcome everybody. It is time for the Big 12 Championship game. We are locked and loaded. We are ready to go. The entire crew is here. Bob Prisbillo. See, I mentioned you first, Bob.
Woo-hoo!
Bob, I feel like I should talk about this. Eddie Radosevich, Josh McQuistion here as well. I think Bob...
Oh, no, I'm scared.
I know. What is going on here?
Bob...
I'm being fired, aren't I?
No,
That'd be ruthless to bring you on the podcast.
This is what I want to bring up. Yeah, I'm going to fire you on the podcast.
Ratings bonanza.
I feel like... See, I guess I both hate and appreciate this, but... Bob waits till Eddie gets here because he does not want awkward alone time with the boss. You ate in your car the other day, waiting for me to clean mine.
Someday I'm going to just show up 25 minutes late. I'm going to show up 25 minutes late.
See, Bob's giving me this quizzical look, but you know what happens, Bob. It's okay. We can talk about it openly. That's what we do on the podcast. We bring awkward things to light.
Saturday
it's almost the time of the season for the airing of grievances.
I was going to wait to see how awkward that could get without a pause.
I needed to eat Saturday, and Brittany and Pearl had left for the city already.
You ate a Burger King burger for 30 minutes.
No, well, then I just chilled because you were getting ready. I didn't want to get in your way.
Okay.
So I just chilled.
So you're not afraid of awkward boss time?
Did you get some Burger King gift cards from somebody on the beat for Thanksgiving or something? I didn't get those.
Did we just have a discussion about this, Eddie?
Chick-fil-A line would have been
bringing up questions that should be answered.
Send your text to Eddie Radosevich, all right? I'm sick of getting them.
I never got it. I didn't
misspelled
I didn't
text.
even get a Thanksgiving text. Everybody else gets one. I didn't get one.
I do get one.
I know. That's what I'm saying. The entire beat got one. I didn't get one.
Message back saying, Happy Thanksgiving to you too. That's all I know, like me riding a turkey or anything like that. ...
How's Thanksgiving 1990?
Okay, stop it.
I'm just kidding. We're all friends here.
The man is...
We're joking around.
No, I'm just kidding. What do you think of Baylor secondary?
All right, well, before we get to Baylor, let's get to the top of the news, which is the college football playoff rankings have been released. And I think a lot of people surprised because there are prognosticators out there and people who measure exactly what the committee does. And they're generally, I'm told, pretty good at it. Now, I just subscribed to one of these services.
The 1 week that I talk these guys up and we talk them up on the radio.
I just Patreoned a guy. I don't want to embarrass anyone because I haven't followed him. I don't know how accurate it normally is.
It's very accurate.
It's usually very accurate.
It is very accurate.
And there's one guy. I'll give him a shout out. A CFB professor, Adam McClintock. Like he said in his projections, and I understand. Like he puts it out all in a column. You subscribe to his Patreon deal, and he shows.
He's a great Twitter follow.
Yeah.
If you're on Twitter you like that kind of stuff,
even before he was all in on this stuff, like he was always tweeting out pretty good stats and stuff. He was a good follow. So now he's kind of devoted. He's kind of like the new Jerry Palm, if you will. Like he puts all his effort and energy into trying to figure out exactly how this college football playoff committee is going to rank teams every week.
Tim and another guy, Dave Bartu.
Is the other guy. And they both are, they seem to get along, unlike us and other media outlets or people.
That's weird.
Well, that's
I get along with everybody.
No, you don't. So he puts out his projections saying that Oklahoma will move ahead of Utah because, and he highlights the fact they have 3, top 25 wins. Utah has 0. Neither one of them have bad loss, but OU's schedule strength quite a bit better than Utah's as well. Utah's schedule strength actually worse than Baylor's. And then now they do have the game control over OU because and I think I saw Stuart Mandel put out a stat about these are the number of wins and losses of their top opponents. And it was like the only OU had Baylor. They had OSU at 8-4, and they have one other one at 8-4, or was it just the loss?
Too bad they didn't have
the loss.
A&M.
The loss would be Kansas
and there was
State.
7-5. But Utah's all 7-5s. Like they don't even have a really good win.
The Pac-12's terrible.
I mean, the more you look at it, it's just
crazy.
ridiculous that OU is still behind Utah.
I think you can't both be true. I think Utah's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I think they've played nobody.
Right.
I think those are both true.
But
It's truly an unprecedented
you are tasked with having a good schedule and beating teams in order to qualify to be one of the top 4 teams in college football.
Sure.
Their defense feels like the Michigan one from last year, but they don't play an Ohio State team that's really going to show what they actually are.
That's a great comparison.
Well, what is what's the number that's been running out there? I know OU fans probably already know it by heart, but it's Utah's rush defense, and they're number 1 in the country. But when you look at the teams that they've played and their rush
top
offense,
50.
Yeah, they're like 75, 105, 103. It's basically a list of nobodies.
Look, there's a lot of things I don't understand. Like I looked at Jeff Sagarin's rankings this morning just to kind of get a gauge of where OU is, where Utah is, where Baylor is. Like in Jeff Sagarin's rankings, Alabama is 4th. Like I don't tell me how that. Where do you arrive? Like what computers are you using? And OU was way higher than Utah, and Baylor was way down there.
Well, and that's the thing. You can't even Sagarin rankings. He can't factor in. That's not Tua playing quarterback anymore.
Yeah,
like that doesn't have any way.
That's true.
There's no way to gauge that. So I mean, like he's still giving Alabama credit for things that Tua did, game control that Tua had, not Mac Jones who threw a couple of pick sixes. You know what I mean? Just that's one of those things that is tough for computers to kind of calculate when you get things that are just massive shifts in the way you look at a team.
All right, and here's what I want to play last night. Now, most people heard Rob Mullens, the chair of the College Football Playoff Committee. He is also the athletic director at Oregon. And he goes on ESPN, and they answer questions, and they ask him questions. He never answers questions, but they also have a teleconference every Tuesday night, and that's where media members get a chance to come on and ask him questions. And this is what my problem has always been with Rob Mullens is he never actually tells you what it is that makes one team favored over another. He just recites bullet points. And here's Garen Emig from the Tulsa World asking the question last night to Rob Mullens.
What specifically is the difference right now in the minds of the committee between Utah and Oklahoma?
We spent considerable time on it, more time than anywhere else on the board. There was plenty of debate. Obviously, when you look at Oklahoma's resume, they have the win against the number 7 team on the road without a key wide receiver. And they also beat Oklahoma State. And when we look at Utah, we see a season-long balance of very consistent play on both sides of the ball. Very dominant wins, and their only loss is on a Friday night on the road at a number 22 ranked team when a key player on offense missed the majority of the game.
Right. Those are all bullet points. But what's the factor from that has Utah still one spot ahead?
Oh, that's exactly the discussion. Those are the factors, and you just line them up, and then we put a vote on what members see and how they feel those teams line up.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
That way, Garen.
First off, what the does playing on a Friday night have to do with anything?
I Twitter swore about that yesterday.
You don't say shit. I was proud. I almost thought you were going to say shit.
We've corrupted you so much.
I feel so good about it. It's crazy to me that is a talking point. I mean,
Friday night game.
You should come out and say, well, we had to play at 7 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time for 6 Saturdays a year.
Yeah, do you know how early people had to wake up in London to watch our games for the first 4 weeks?
So many OU fans in London had to wake up at 3 a.m. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me.
And USC, they keep forgetting the fact that USC was using their third-string quarterback and they beat Utah. Like, to me...
That gets glossed over, doesn't it?
To me, like, there is... Okay, yes, they've had game control. They've been dominant. It's kind of like Baylor, though, isn't it? It's like, at some point, you play another team and they just have more athletes than you do. Like, USC is not a great team, but it should be troubling to the committee that the one team that you played with Power 5 athletes all up and down the roster, you lost to them.
Fact.
And the Friday night thing is a scapegoat statement if I've ever heard one before in my life.
It's funny to me that you look at almost every statistical category as far as strength of schedule, top 25 wins, all of that encompasses what is supposed to make up a resume. Oklahoma is better on all of them. It is literally, there's basically what I heard from the committee last night is our eye test tells us Utah, not only do we think they're better right now, they've been more consistent the entire year. That's basically all it is. But I guess Oklahoma's argument to that would be, if you don't fumble the ball against TCU, you don't turn the ball over twice in the fourth quarter against Iowa State, all of a sudden those wins from an eye test probably look a whole lot better.
And you beat the number 7 team on the road without your best offensive player. Why doesn't that come up in the discussion?
But I would say, and I know
to be fair, he did mention that.
He did.
Well, and here's the
mention
thing.
what?
That they didn't have CD.
I got you. Okay.
Yes.
But he won't use that in comparison to
Correct.
That's just a bullet point.
Sure.
By the way, we have to redeem someone here because we gave Heather Dinich a lot of shit because she sat there when Jim Mora.
Well, she's a loyal listener of the
Emmanuel
podcast.
Acho,
I found that out.
Emmanuel Acho. I think she's just avoiding confrontation because she actually came on and went after Rob Mullens as well, just like Garen Emick did.
What in particular did the debate surround?
Just what we've talked about here, looking at their complete resumes. Obviously, Oklahoma has the win over Baylor and Oklahoma State. When you watch Utah, very balanced, very consistent performance. They've dominated the majority of their schedule. A top 2 or 3 defense, experienced quarterback, only loss on the road without a key offensive player.
Thank you.
That was
that's
nearly
it.
as good as Garen's discussed at the end, but
Okay, sure.
I'm forgiving Heather Dinich.
We'll allow it. Manuel Ancho looking for retweets, trying to buy my love. Did you see that
Yes.
this week?
You got
did
tagged.
And I retweeted it like a shill.
But I mean, he actually did go out and say that the Big 12 will be in the championship game even if Utah wins.
Do you think that
or be in the playoffs?
And I want to get into that here, and we obviously will, but do you think that they've had the conversation with all the Jim Mora stuff as far as, do you think in Bristol or wherever they've had a discussion, Emmanuel, we need you to be the Big 12 voice. You haven't been that, but
No.
we're catching a lot of heat.
Counterbalance him. Yeah.
Seriously. I almost think it was not a coincidence that he comes out after we spend, basically 72 hours giving it to Jim Mora. I mean, even Dusty had to come out and basically say
There's no
my
agenda.
my cohorts might be idiots, but that's basically what he said.
Jim Moore definitely knows where bodies are buried because he didn't even flinch. There was no, OU did kind of play some good defense, since half of that Baylor game. That wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
With the team. None of that. He just came out, doubled down, said, and you know what? Baylor sucks too.
They're flashy and all
they're
that stuff.
I mean, I'm going to totally misrepresent Baylor now, on top of already saying that OU's defense is a disaster.
Is
there anyone on earth that would call Baylor flashy?
No.
No. Maybe
I've
our
watched them
Kansas.
since 2013.
Kansas might call them flashy. That's it.
There's so many athletes and big plays. Their defense and ball control. I mean,
maybe they like
Michael
Madden.
Hasty might be the most average back in the league. I mean, Charlie Brewer's a
I like
nice
Hasty.
quarterback. He's okay.
I like Hasty.
To me, he's just a guy.
They might be talking about Rule Smock.
Better than Rex Burkhead?
I don't even want to. I am never, ever going after Rex Burkhead again.
They might.
Nebraska fans have plenty of time to argue.
They have
They're not going to a bowl
time
game.
on their hands, and I am not messing with
They
that.
might be talking about Rule Smock in terms of being flashy.
That thing is flashy. As a vest guy, I approve of it. It often gets lost in the discussion.
Is that the official name of a T-shirt hoodie? Is a smock?
I think that's kind of what he's calling it. Max Olson did a little piece on it.
I saw that,
for the
yeah.
Athletic the other day.
Did you guys see Matt Rule pull the best I don't worry about recruiting move ever?
No.
That video that's gone kind of viral on Twitter where he's talking about, like, we don't spend our time, I don't stay up late talking to recruits. I don't do all this. But I'm going to give you the 27 recruiting pitches that I have right now. I don't worry about recruiting, but I'm going to recruit for 2 minutes during this press conference. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And you guys know I've been a Matt Rule fan. I love that hire when it was made. But I love recruiting's not my focus, but I'm going to spend a good chunk of this media time talking about recruiting. Like, you can't have that both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about, when people say, Lincoln Riley and the Cowboys and Matt Rule and the NFL. Like, Matt Rule is not that dynamic guy that lives, eats, and breathes recruiting. Like, he is a delegator.
That's why he's NFL teams have thought of him so highly. Like,
right.
The Jets are a terribly run organization. I hope the owners wake up every day thinking we could have had Matt Rule.
God, we got Adam Gase. God, we just lost to the Dolphins.
I mean, and what does Lincoln love about that? You'd have to think a big part of that is I can control who's on my roster. I get to make those decisions.
And he enjoys it. I mean, he's good at it. He likes doing it. He likes acquiring the talent. So, I mean, he doesn't have that opportunity. Well, with the Cowboys, you specifically don't have that.
Absolutely. That being almost the worst case scenario.
So I don't know. I don't know it's just watching fan bases from afar. I don't know if I can handle it anymore. I mean, between Florida State and God, Eddie sent us some text today, some guy that still thinks that there's some massive secret hiring that's happened with Bob Stoops.
They had a secret press conference
in which they recorded Bob
accepting
the
job
to play later.
Because that's the most Bob Stoops thing of all time.
Because he can't be bothered to do a welcome press conference because he has another job.
Mm-hmm. I love it so much. What do they call it? Silly season? It's sillier than silly season. It is wild season.
But I don't know. I think I'm more triggered.
Is the difference right now in the mind?
Sorry, Garen,
your time in the pod is done.
Incredibly rude, Garen.
No, I think what triggers me more are just blanket Cowboys fans that are just like, oh, we're going to get Lincoln Riley. They know nothing about college football or Lincoln Riley or really football in general. They're just Cowboys fans.
Well, I think
that Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the league.
Oh, sure.
Like, those are the people that are just like, oh, we're going to get Lincoln Riley.
I think if I was looking at it from the outside in and I lived in wherever, insert podunk town in Texas that somehow has the internet, I would probably think that we could get Lincoln Riley as well. I mean, I think that
because
there's a lot of people.
Texas, he would love to have this job.
And there's a lot of people that just think that that's the natural progression for coaches is that you go from coordinator to head coach, from head coach to NFL head coach. When in reality, I think that thing has been completely debunked over the last couple of years. That there's a certain type of coach for the NFL. There's a certain type of coach for college, and if anybody knows it more than anybody, I think that it'd be like a guy like a Barry Switzer or a guy like a Steve Spurrier, somebody very easily accessible for Lincoln Riley to be able to say, this is what it takes. Or on the flip side of it, you have a guy like Cliff Kingsbury. Who would have known that he'd have his somewhat success in the NFL early? I guess it's a little incomplete.
But for him, it's
completely different.
It was convenient with his current status. Like, to be an offensive coordinator at USC after just getting fired as a head coach at your alma mater, like it's kind of like Josh Heupel probably be, like he has more of an NFL mentality. Josh, you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
100%. I think if Josh never had to recruit again, he would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not a shot at Josh. Like that,
No.
there's some guys that just love to do it, and some guys don't.
Because he was fine recruiting, Kingsbury was, but I'm just saying for him, and being an offensive mind, being in that position, that was just the best thing for him. But I don't know that Lincoln's so in control of his situation and so entrenched and so comfortable with all the things you have to do to be a head coach. I just don't think it's a good fit. Not right now.
Well, and not to mention and this is from a very Oklahoma standpoint, but it'd be hard to turn down what he's building right now, just as far as the offensive guys that he has in the program. Rattler, obviously, the quarterback situation that they have, everything's set for them to make.
Defense coming along
not
like
just not just a run, but be a serious contender over the next couple years, as it appears the other quote unquote powers across college football. I mean, they're closer than they ever have been to a national championship. I truly believe that. They're closer this year. This team, which is ironic that they might not make the playoffs, I think this team's closer to a national championship than the team last year was.
Yes, for
the
sure.
2018 team.
Yeah,
Maybe not. I wouldn't go that far with 2017, and
Correct.
maybe that's just because of my affinity for Mayfield and everything that they had. But I don't know. The whole thing is crazy in the fact that this team, I think, is better than last year's team, and they might not even make the playoffs, which I guess to kind of circle all the way back around with the college football playoff stuff. Do we really think that if Utah and Oklahoma win that they won't elevate Oklahoma? Like, has your opinion changed over the last 24 hours, being that Oklahoma didn't make the jump last night? Do they have to go out and do something special this weekend?
Yes, because it feels like the body of work hasn't mattered, and it's just going to come down to one freaking game and how you played in it. Because OU's body of work hasn't mattered throughout the season if the Utes are still ahead of them now. But with OU playing Saturday, at least they'll know what they've got to do.
What is your response
Did I just
to
hear sleigh
the
bells at Josh's house?
Santa came early?
What's that?
Did I just hear sleigh
No,
bells at your house?
That's the dog playing with her bone on the little tile floor. It's like scraping across the floor. So we do have their
Linda or something. Your house is the meetup.
Santa.
Your house is the meetup point.
Linda's enticing. I mean, it's even Santa has his wherewithal is tested on a,
By the way,
I guess, annual basis.
Okay, does anyone here, how many people think that Oregon will win the Pac-12 championship?
I don't have a clue. I haven't watched these teams.
It just depends what Justin Herbert you get.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And that's my problem. I really struggle to pick Oregon in a big game.
I mean, the last we saw Oregon, they were losing to Arizona State.
Yeah. I will say, though, that game was 24-7. All of a sudden, you thought it was over, and you look up, and Arizona State has to complete a 3rd and 14, 84-yard pass to even solidify it. I mean, because I think if Oregon gets the ball back there, only down, 3? It was 27-24. They get the ball back with like 2.5 minutes left after reeling off 14 points, I think. They probably win the game. And this conversation isn't even happening because it's the winner of Oregon and Utah.
Oregon they are the most talented team in the Pac-12. There's no doubt on both sides of the ball. Offensive line, quarterback, defense. They're the best team.
It's going to be really interesting to watch, because Utah's run defense and everything has been so vaunted. I'm like, that's the best offensive line you faced by a mile. For OU fans that may remember, a kid came for an official visit. Penei Sewell may be the best offensive lineman in the country, and he's a sophomore. He is a monster.
He's a mountain. He's literally a mountain of a man.
I think he was just recognized by the Outland Trophy.
I remember
he is special.
This week.
Forgot what game it was. I think it was one of those games that we got back way late from a road game, and they were still playing. And I ended up watching the second half, and he just dominated. Like, they were basically like, we're going to run right behind you, Sewell, and just clear the way. And that's what they did the entire second half.
But it's kind of like Jalen Hurts. Like, can Herbert go out there and not turn the ball over in critical times?
Yeah. I think Utah's pretty good defensively. I think Oregon's good defensively at the same time.
Oregon they should have the crowd advantage, I would think.
Whatever crowd there will be.
There's going to be like...
It's always so
There's going to be
sad.
more people at the 6A Division II state semifinal in Texas than there will be. It may be more than they have at Wantland than at Levi Stadium.
That's always a ghost town.
Guys, and the thing that we're not thinking enough about here, that's a Friday night game.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Who does that favor? I mean, that's clearly
Obviously
a big
not
issue in the
Utah.
Pac-12.
If they lose on Friday night, does it count?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it counts extra if they win, so I don't know what the ratio is.
I mean, I bet the lines are getting ready to just plummet in favor of Oregon since Rob Mullens cracked the code that they can't play on Friday nights.
From a viewing standpoint, I would think this weekend, and that's kind of, if you're the true conspiracy theorist out there, this is what the College Football Playoff Committee wants. They want you to sit down. They want you to watch
every single
Friday
game.
night. They want you to watch the Big 12 Saturday morning, and that rolls right into the SEC and then the Big 10. So, I mean, from a viewing standpoint, it's going to be pretty kick-ass.
What's funny is we talked to R.J. Proctor last night, and he said his Virginia boys will take care of Clemson so that OU doesn't have to worry
I
about
hope
them.
he's not drug tested before the game.
God.
Do you know what the line is on that Clemson-Virginia game?
I have Vegas Insider pulled up right now.
No, I know what it is. Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
Georgia. Oh, it was like 24 or something like that, wasn't it?
It's currently 28.5.
Open at 24.5, and it's already up. In some places, it's 29.
29 points in a conference championship.
Westgate, it's 29.
Did you see the Todd Furman stat this week?
No.
Clemson was a 15.5-point favorite or more in every game this year. They were a 24-point favorite in 13 of their 14 games. Or, 12 of their 13 games.
And there lies the problem
or
for
11
both
of 12.
OU and Utah. Neither one of you played in just gangbuster conferences. I think the Big 12 is quite a bit better than the Pac-12. But OU really has no excuses because they lost to Kansas State.
No, yeah. Sure.
Go undefeated, and you can still play in a sucky conference. Like, that's the thing about the college football playoff, non-conference games, all that. And everybody knows this. Like, Baylor knew this. Kansas State, with Bill Snyder, knew this. Even if you play a bunch of idiots in the as long as you go undefeated, you're fine. And Clemson's good enough to do that.
But it's crazy to ask a college football team that, considering how hard it is to go undefeated, isn't it? Don't you think, Josh?
Well, yeah, and that kind of leads into what I was just looking at. I have officially lost all faith in 538. There is no reason to look at it again. I would just kind of mess around with the win-out possibility on their predictor. If Georgia, Utah, Oklahoma, Clemson, and Ohio State win out, they give LSU a 6% chance of making the playoff.
Right.
No way in hell.
I saw that too.
If Georgia wins by 20, maybe LSU doesn't make the playoff. Maybe. But even then, I don't see any way it happens. To me, like, this is all
LSU
moot.
and Ohio State are locked in no matter what.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I would be real surprised. Clemson is just because Virginia has no chance. And, OU fans have to be huge LSU fans on Saturday.
No doubt.
Yep.
Because if Georgia wins that game, it's all over. This is all pointless.
That's the funny part, is we've all spent all these hours and
Utah
figuring it out between OU and Utah, and even throw in Baylor, who I think is probably the most disrespected school in the history of the College Football Playoff Committee. But if Georgia wins, all of this is null and void.
What do they call that?
And I don't have a huge problem with that.
No.
Yeah.
That'll piss OU fans off, but I don't have a problem.
The wins for Georgia would be pretty incredible.
Yep. The loss is bad. It's a really, really bad loss.
What's that?
But their wins are amazing.
It's almost, and this will piss people off even more, but it's such a bad loss for Georgia. It's almost like that was an anomaly in a way. You know what I mean?
True. Yep. Bingo.
It's so bad. They would have been better off.
Look,
obviously winning.
I am not worried about Georgia beating LSU in the least.
You just don't think it's going to happen?
Georgia scored a touchdown against Texas A&M. LSU scored a season's worth of touchdowns against Texas A&M.
Oh, I don't disagree. I just don't see any way Georgia scores 30, and they're going to have to beat LSU.
And they're not going to have Pickens for the first half because of the dumb stuff he did.
What do they call that? Like, is it a military term when you're about to defeat your enemy, but then the enemy just does something to just kill everybody? Like they just set off a nuclear bomb or something, kill themselves and you.
Terrorism?
Kamikaze?
Not like but like there's some like it's like
this is gonna be bad because we have no clue.
There's some it's a
all this military background and we can't come up with
I
this.
know. Anyway,
Look it up.
I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to type into Google.
I support the troops.
Oh my God, that is not what we're talking about. That is. Anyway.
Eddie, you can literally at this point now you can say anything you want. You support the troops, so get out whatever else you got to get out there, buddy.
No, I think that's probably it. Okay. I will say, while we're still talking about the college football playoff, the worst take out there, and I just saw it, so that's what brings us up. Jeff Schwartz talking about how OU is 0-3 in the playoffs, so this team doesn't deserve to be in it. That's the worst take on the internet right now. Literally tell me any other reason why OU shouldn't be in the playoffs besides predicating it on what they did in years past. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Well, the flip of that is Alabama should be in there because they've been there every other year. And they win a lot, and so they should be. I mean, like that's the reverse of the argument.
Well, I think you're getting Jeff Schwartz. He's retaliating off a Feinbaum, right? Then he said, Utah. So Schwartz is a Pac-12 guy. Feinbaum doing what he does. Cycle continues.
The thing is, though, Feinbaum on this one, he's not wrong. Utah is not a sexy team. Nobody's going to be so excited to watch Utah and Ohio State. Ohio State and Oklahoma, no matter I'm not saying the outcome's going to be that different. I think Utah and Oklahoma are comparable teams. I really do. But that doesn't change that Oklahoma carries a lot more interest, a lot bigger fan base, and just a lot more notoriety. It's what we talk about every week than Utah does. And that's not a reason to choose them or not choose them in the playoff, but it is a reality of the viewing public, which is what Feinbaum was talking about.
Josh, I don't know if you answered. Do you think Oklahoma gets in? Say Oklahoma and Utah both win this weekend.
I do. It's hard to know. I think a little bit depends on how Oklahoma looks. If they go out and they can remove the mistakes they made in the first game and just play a clean game and beat Baylor like I think they would have. And I hate that. I hate that I keep saying, well, if they'd have done this and they'd have done that, because I'm getting killed by Baylor fans right now because I've tweeted about it a couple times. But Oklahoma's a better team than Baylor, guys. You can slice that any way you want.
They're pretty
Oklahoma's Baylor to win straight up.
The Baylor fans have to be pretty easy to defeat on Twitter.
Oh, I mean, it's that's like
that's like the dirty bomb, like we're talking about or whatever. Yeah, you just
hold the cross up.
Well, they're comparing like dropping passes in the second half to Jalen Hurts fumbling on the one. I'm like, guys, it's not the same thing. Like, I don't know what to tell you about that. Or, throwing a terrible interception across the field or fumbling, when he's scrambling around. Like, they just OU didn't just make like mistakes that happen in the flow of a game. They made game-changing mistakes and made them multiple times.
Chair just broke.
Oh no, Carrie just went down.
I'm fine. Apparently my chair has a recline feature I didn't know about.
We reclined. The whole thing, I guess, at the end of the day, I can't put a lot of stock into what this committee has told us on Tuesday nights. And I think anybody that's listened to the pod kind of knows our stance on this. None of this really matters until Sunday morning. Then you can get angry, and I know there will be a lot of people angry either way it goes, whether OU's in it, whether Utah's in it. There's just a lot that is going to unfold in the next 3 days when it all starts on Friday.
The thing for OU fans to remember, and I know they're not going to hear me, and they're probably going to get mad that I say this, if OU doesn't make it, OU has no one to blame but themselves.
Sure.
No one. They lost to a team they should have beaten, and they routinely laid eggs. Were games that they should have put away, they didn't put away.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree. Blame Jim Mora if you don't get in. And call for his firing.
I love that the players are even in on like hatred of Jim Mora. I mean, some of the disastrous stuff, like Kenneth Murray was liking that stuff on Saturday night. You're like,
it's not just Jim Mora though. It's like these old football coaches that just won't give in.
Well, they just haven't paid attention. It's like if you didn't watch the Oklahoma State game and say, wow, that's so different what we saw against Oklahoma State than a couple of strips against West Virginia a year ago. I mean, like, those are just a couple of plays that happened in a game that was out of control already. Like, that was a game that OU controlled from beginning. Well, other than the first drive, OU controlled that game defensively.
Yeah, you could argue if that first Motley pick is ruled an interception, it gets bad in a hurry. It still ended up pretty bad, but it could have been 24-7 in the second quarter, and it could have spiraled.
Like
I guess I just don't understand how people watch OU play this year and they sit there and go on the radio. Or like Pat Jones on the way down here, it's like, oh, they don't play any goddamn defense. It's like, I don't know how you can say that. How you can sit and watch games and say that they haven't improved this year. It's crazy to me.
And everybody keeps talking about it like, well, it's Lincoln Riley's changed the offense, and some of that's true. They're not on the field as much. I get all that. But that also has a huge role in third down conversions, where Oklahoma's number 13 in the country, allowing 31%. They're right behind LSU, right behind Auburn, right behind Utah. It's 10, 11, 12, 13 is Utah, Auburn, LSU, Oklahoma. Nobody else would have that conversation that, in some ways, Oklahoma's right there with those schools. Even though Oklahoma best LSU in almost every category.
You can't go from the hundreds into the 20s and not be recognized for improving.
Crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know what's crazier, the jump that this defense has made or the fact that Oklahoma has basically changed their offense to a game control or ball control, put drives together offense, and statistically, they're averaging 8.36 yards a play.
But see, I don't think it is.
That's right up there with the offenses of the past years that was historically good.
Like
that's better than 2017.
Yes, it is.
People kind of tag this like, oh, well, Lincoln's slowing it down. He's controlling the clock. I just think that this is what he has to do, because you remember all the times we talked about how impossible it was to establish a running back when you call so many passes and Jalen Hurts turns half of them into running plays. Like, it was just impossible for them. I think that's the most impressive thing that Lincoln Riley has done, other than his first year after that Texas loss, when he's like, you know what, I've got some running backs. I've got to start using Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. And he did. And they became a better running team. Now he's like, look, we have to run the ball. Like, we have to run the ball with our running backs, because they're averaging 10 yards a carry, even though they're getting like 4 or 5 yards, 4 or 5 carries a game. So in essence, in order for him to run the ball and give it to the running backs, this is the style of offense that happens, because Jalen Hurts he's still choosing not to throw the ball. I mean, you're going, and it's not like, they're losing. They're going from like 30 passes a game to like 20.
Even less.
Yeah. I mean 17, 20. I mean, I'm just saying the average, like, since they've, and you notice it, like, the first play of every game is a handoff to Kennedy Brooks, and it goes for 10 yards usually.
They're literally putting their players in the best position to succeed, aren't they? I mean, that's literally what Lincoln Riley's doing.
It is, and then it's about CeeDee Lamb and Rambo trying to accept what Trey Sermon and Brooks had to accept during the first half of the season.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a bit of a struggle for those guys compared to what the running back.
You know how that conversation should go? And I know you got to smooth a bunch of egos down there, but deal with it. Do you like winning? Deal with it.
Well, that's what Nick Basquin said on Monday. He said we got to be okay with winning.
Basquin and Morris get it.
Yeah.
But
those guys aren't probably, and
they're not up for the Biletnikoff.
No offense to Nick or Lee, but those guys aren't getting ready to play on Sundays either, or have their focus set on that.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's just I don't know what you're going to do. Are you going to force the issue and try and throw the ball 9 times to CeeDee Lamb and waste downs? I mean, because that's literally what you're doing.
The biggest anomaly, though, is the second half against Baylor, because that was an offense where Jalen Hurts threw it all over the field to different people.
He had to, though. They were down by 25.
But I'm just saying, he is capable of doing it. Like, for whatever reason, he stayed in the pocket and scanned the field and found the receivers like no other time he's done this year. And it's just like, okay, they got past that game, and you thought, okay, well, he's going to grow out of this. He's going to become a better passer in the pocket, and he really hasn't. I mean, he made some nice throws against Oklahoma State. I mean, he makes nice throws.
Everybody talked about Ramondre Stevenson being lined out wide on the catch that he made.
3rd and 12.
That's a great throw from Jalen Hurts. Yeah. Across the field, all that wind that you guys were talking about in the post game. I mean, that was a tough throw, and he made it look pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think Oklahoma just finally knows what they are offensively. They're not trying to be something they're not. They're not trying to showcase. I don't know if they ever were, but it felt like at times they were trying to showcase Jalen Hurts. And instead, this is the best way for this team to win. It makes our defense better. It makes our offense more functional. Like, let's just be who we are.
Yeah.
The problem is, the more they are this offense, the more it does kind of showcase Jalen Hurts. Because they're running it so much, he's picking up a lot of the short yardage stuff. I mean, because the ball's in his hand. I mean, like, when he goes back to throw on 3rd and 5, and he scrambles and picks up the first down by an inch, it's like, whoa, it's the Jalen Hurts show. That was impressive.
Okay.
Man show.
Was there almost a revolt when Jalen Hurts caught a touchdown pass? I mean, that felt like the ultimate.
That's not the smartest thing, is to be calling reverse passes to Jalen Hurts for touchdowns. Like, if you already kind of have a little bubbling cauldron of jealousy as it is, that's not helping.
Yeah, Riley doesn't care.
Right.
He's trying to score.
Yep.
And he loves reverse passes.
He does.
He loves those like fat kids
on
like
the 3-year on the 3-yard line.
Yeah. Especially.
How many schools in recruiting do you think are trying to work against Oklahoma? Like, look, this is what they are. And Riley's like, have you seen who we've got on the bench? Like, no, it's going to be fine.
I would
Just
imagine
relax.
he has an entire PowerPoint presentation that if it's ever brought up, he's like, all right, I'll be back. I'm going to go get a drink. Just watch this. It's like a 3-minute video of everything they've done in the last 3 years.
I mean,
he goes into mom's kitchens whipping up a cocktail.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley literally
I'll
has,
be back, all right?
The best young offensive line in college football, and he'll be on the 2-yard line, and instead of just giving it to Kennedy Brooks and letting him barrel in the end zone, he would rather run a triple flea flicker, here's another football coming out of my ass, let's use this one, now throw it down the field. And
if he could get away with it, I'm sure that he would.
I'm just shocked, and the only reason we didn't hear the take of why is Oklahoma using this, because it's a play people had actually seen before. I'm like, that's one of those takes for, like, Eddie always gets mad about. That's the one that drives me crazy. That, like, why would he show this against Oklahoma State? He's got Baylor next week. Do we really think Lincoln Riley is short on creativity? Like, he can come up with something.
He shows that against he does this shit against Kansas.
It's been proved. It's documented, and I think it's been brought up on the board before. He runs trick plays more times than not against the lesser opponent.
Yes.
Against your Kansases. He threw the throwback against Iowa State 3 years ago. Yep. He does it against the lesser opponents more times than not, which I think in a way is his way of keeping other teams honest, of just throwing it out there.
Well, I think
saying, we got this in our bag.
I think he does it because teams that aren't as good, he knows that they are pursuing harder than anyone.
Sure. He knows that they're going to score. He knows they're going to work.
By the way, I want to remind you guys, it is Christmas time. A lot of bills going on, bowl season coming up. You need some extra cash laying around. Why don't you go to midfirst.com/U40? That's midfirst.com/U40. Sign up for MidFirst Bank's OU Rewards credit card. They are the exclusive provider of the OU credit card. Right now, you can earn $150 on your first $1,000 spent in the first 90 days that you open your account. And also, you are registered for a chance to win the ultimate game day experience every time you make a qualifying purchase with your OU Rewards credit card. And what will that register you for? The ultimate game day experience. VIP tickets to a football or basketball game plus $500. So you get 0% APR for the first year. And MidFirst Bank does a great job sponsoring the podcast. But go and sign up. There's an apply now button right there, midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And get yourself the OU credit card. It's crimson. It's got the big OU logo on it. Every time you whip it out to pay for something, everybody's going to know that you're a big OU fan. So go sign up for that. Thanks to MidFirst Bank for being a huge sponsor of the Unofficial 40 all throughout the football season and beyond. Okay, guys, so Baylor's coming up. This is a team, as much as Jim Mora and others have tried to kind of shit on the defense, we know that they are playing really well. And here's the thing to me, you see what Parnell Motley did. I got to think everybody else on that defense is kind of taking notice and saying, okay, Nick Benito kind of had his moment. I'm trying to, Parnell's had his moment. Buki's had his moment. Now Parnell had a really big moment against OSU. I want to get my moment. I had a little conversation with Ronnie Perkins, and there's a little overcussing in here too, which I enjoyed from Mr. Here's the thing, Ronnie Perkins, is he from St. Louis?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, I know he's from Missouri, but he's St. Louis proper, just outside.
I think it's St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
He went to Lutheran North.
Yeah.
He would totally, you can see him kind of taking on the country persona of Oklahoma a little bit in this interview.
Ronnie Perkins.
He is so good to talk to. Here's Ronnie Perkins.
It seemed like, Parnell going out there and basically becoming the best player on the field. You haven't had a guy dominate like that. How much can that help the defense? How much can that be kind of contagious for you guys?
I mean, it's real contagious. You see people might get all the turnovers. In my head, I'm like, shit, I want one too. So I mean, it create a little competitive edge, with the guys on the defense, who want to get the most turnovers, But last week, P. did a great job of it. He really was playing one-man defense at one point, as I describe it, taking the ball by himself. So, I mean, we all feed off that energy, getting the ball out. He made me want to go get a strip sack.
Deshaun said it looked even better when you guys watched it back. It was even more impressive.
I mean, but in person it was crazy too, because I had a front row seat to it. So I just see him rip the ball off. I'm like, what the hell?
Yes.
But no, it was a major play for us, man. So I mean, that's exactly what Coach Grinch been preaching. One man holding the ball, carry up, the other go for the ball.
I mean, he's a guy that's had so many ups and downs here. I mean, he's just one of the guys. I mean, does that kind of make an impact that this guy's, had ups and downs here, and all of a sudden he goes out and he's finally getting it. That could come for all of us.
Yeah, most definitely. He just fighting through his adversity. Nothing ever gonna go as planned, never gonna go how you want it. So he just kept swinging. Going through the bad times he went through, and now he got brighter days because he kept fighting through that adversity.
I love me some Ronnie Perkins. Here is Alex Grinch talking about the same stuff.
Alex, you told us kind of with the turnovers that, your hope was kind of one guy leads to two, leads to three. Now that you have that performance from Parnell, does that give you hope that this could be kind of contagious for your defense?
Well, I think it is, and you saw the ball out more this past week than probably in any game over the course of the year. So does it speak to that? In some ways, I think that it does. I think it's also just an appreciation for when you take the field, you got two outcomes that you can obviously grind and fight for, either getting off the field in a kicking situation or get off the field with a take winner. So I think there's just an appreciation for that as much as anything else. And so when you see one guy do it, I want to be like him. I mean, I think that's I want that outcome. And want to's part of it, and then the next piece is obviously getting that thing done. But that was real positive and excited for him.
And guys, I think the biggest question about this game, I think that everybody has, is what does it mean when you play a team twice? Because OU's done it a few times now. They were a lot better against Texas.
They've been on the flip side of both of them, haven't they?
Well, they
won. Beat TCU, had to play them again, and then they've lost to Texas.
Against a team they already beat, and they've had to defend against a team they lost to. But Gary Patterson's a hell of a coach, and they always seem to handle that. I mean, it wasn't like you always wonder, Gary Patterson's really good. They're going to have something for this OU team, and OU handle it every time.
It was 17-0 before TCU even knew what hit them.
And obviously Texas didn't have any good coaches because they've all been fired now. But
Interesting how that works.
We all think Matt Rule's a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
And they've got a pretty good coaching staff. Like, what are they going to have for Oklahoma in the second
You can
time
look
around?
at it two ways, I think. You can look at it either as far as the first time around, it was kind of a fluke that OU fell behind by 25, put themselves in bad position. Josh, I think you're kind of on this side, and then they whooped their ass in the second half. Or you can look at it as it was an all-time meltdown by Baylor.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just as good as Oklahoma, and maybe they stick with it and they get them this time, and they do force a couple more turnovers. It's very fascinating to look at, and it probably the rematch just in itself probably won't get the what am I trying to say here?
It won't live up to the hype.
Well, or the notoriety
The
that it
ratings?
should get.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is probably one of the better games on the slate this weekend, and all you're going to hear about is Georgia and LSU.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. I mean, people just don't want to see rematches when somebody's won already. I mean, I think the OU Texas thing was kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure OU was favored in that game.
Well, and you had defensive staff up, they changed it all. So it felt like a different team.
It did. You're right. You're right. Ruffin
mean,
McNeil leading the charge.
This is just
and let's also be honest. It was Texas. This is Baylor.
Yep, sure.
Whether we like it, the national perception is just different.
Sure.
By the
I
way,
agree.
Ronnie Perkins went on to continue his overcussing when he was asked about that safety by Trey Brown. And when the play was called in, he was like, "Oh shit, I don't think that's going to work."
I think everybody probably would have thought that at the time.
Buki said the same thing. He's like, I don't know how Ellinger didn't see Trey coming.
Yeah.
It was right to his face, and it wasn't a blind side. It came right to him, and he just wasn't looking.
I think there's a lot of people wondering how Sammy Ehlinger hasn't seen a lot of things here lately.
Oh,
Well, he sees plenty of horns down.
That's
He
true.
doesn't miss those.
It's true.
yeah, he doesn't miss those, does he?
Their off season's already started.
No, but I mean,
Good
the
luck
thing,
in the Texas Bowl or wherever
the thing that is interesting
hell
is
they go.
has this OU defense finally figured it out? Have they gotten over, the Kansas State meltdown? Is Jalen Hurts gotten over his turnover thing? Like, can they put it all together? I mean, what's the most if OU doesn't fumble, the defense just plays, respectfully. Do they
This
win
weekend?
Do they win by 21 going away?
I don't know about 21. I'd say a solid 2 touchdowns though.
I could see if they went out, played like, I mean, not even like they did in the second half. That was, again, that's I talked about it after that game. That's not realistic to expect. Like that's not what's going to happen game in and game out. But somewhere in the middle of the two halves, you can win that game 38-21, something like that. I mean,
I think that'd be a really
seems
good
possible
win.
to me.
And here's the thing that I can't figure out about Baylor. I mean, you go to overtime against TCU. You should have lost to Texas Tech. You beat Iowa State. Were they up and then Iowa State came back, or was it the other way
They were
around?
up 20-0, and then it was 21-20, and then they kicked the field goal to win.
I want to say it was 20-0 going into the fourth quarter too.
It was another
Iowa State scored 3 touchdowns in the
just
fourth
like
quarter.
they did against the Sooners.
I mean, because of Spencer Sanders' turnovers, the only team they really handled was Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
until Texas.
Until Texas, yeah.
And Kansas, I guess. So
Kansas.
They've played really well the last 2 weeks.
And that's why I said.
And they beat
Since
Kansas
the way
State
they
by
bounced
7,
back.
right? Like,
What's
didn't
that?
they beat Kansas State by 7?
No, they destroyed them in
They destroy Kansas
Manhattan.
State?
Like
Okay.
30,
That's right. That was the
13
one
or
that they did,
something.
okay.
Yeah, they beat them good.
So, I mean, it's just
Really
such
good
a
teams
weird,
go to Manhattan and win.
It's just such a weird team. I can't figure out, are they Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, or are they better than that and closer to Oklahoma?
I think they're somewhere closer to Oklahoma, but just below maybe like 2 or 3 levels.
So they're a better version of all the 8-4 teams in the count. 8-4, 7-5.
I think that's probably fair.
I can't get a handle on Brewer. I thought
Yeah.
with Mims and Platt, and you got all those weapons, but they're not flashy. They're not what Jim Mora said.
I think
That's not who they've been.
I think Baylor is a solid top 15 team. And what that means, I don't know. But I think OU is a solid top 6 team, and they're probably a solid top 15.
You know, the one thing that, didn't happen last time around that I thought would is I thought OU's defensive line would have more success against their offensive line.
Well,
And
towards the end of the game, they started to.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they only had like 16 plays in the second half, but at the same time, you could see them wearing those guys down up front.
Here is Alex Grinch talk a little bit about the rematch.
Alex, you think it's a little different for a defensive coordinator when you face a team twice, maybe than it would be for an offensive coordinator?
You know what? I haven't really given much thought to that angle. I mean, I think, you know, what you can't do is get so wrapped up in the first game and say that okay, these are the 10 things that you're going to see, and this is how they attacked you. So obviously that's how they're going to attack you this coming weekend. And so in any event, you got to use those as data points. You got to put that in your breakdowns as if they were playing against somebody else. And obviously it's good video because they're attacking you. But no, I would limit it to that. You know, you use it, but make sure you don't get so engulfed in it that it kind of can paralyze you.
And I mean, that's, you're playing a football game. You know who these guys are, but you're not going to be able to use that first game to allow you to play the perfect second game, I think is what he was saying there. And don't expect that. You're just playing football.
Yeah. I think in a way that's why it helps Oklahoma a little bit that they've been in this situation here over the last couple of years. They've played in these big games. I think that counts, maybe not for everything, but it counts for something for sure, just as far as performing and playing on the big stage, being able to execute on the big stage. Because in a way, if you really want to, I guess, would you be putting it in a vacuum? Is that the proper dialogue on this? But they were a little bit on the big stage in that second half, and they kind of threw up on themselves.
Right.
Talking about Baylor.
Mm-hmm. This would be the only other time where the eyes of the country will be on them. Because it's the only game at 11 o'clock, so they've got the entire nation watching them. And what they did second half in Waco against the Sooners didn't probably respond very well to that challenge. And here they have another shot. And maybe they're just a team that's not meant for the limelight just yet. Maybe they have to learn how to be that team in the next year or two. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility where this is a team that when the stage is that big, they're not quite ready for the moment.
By the way, I want to remind you guys, SeatGeek has you taken care of for all your ticket needs. And actually, they are the official ticket partner for the Big 12 Championship game. So, a lot of seats available. Still, a lot of great deals out there. I'm looking in the SeatGeek app right now. I want you to go and download that SeatGeek app. $60, $65 for a pair of tickets. And the thing about the SeatGeek app and SeatGeek.com is that they take all the tickets and they rate each deal on a scale of 1 to 10, and then they show them on an interactive seat map. So they break down all the details. Green dots mean good deals. Red dots are overpriced. And every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets with total confidence. And I've used them for a lot of stuff. Everybody here has used them. Eddie's used them for Cubs games. Josh used them for Astros games. I've used them for concerts and buying tickets for friends when they're in from out of town and things like that. It's always easy to use. And here's what you can do, especially with the Big 12. Make sure you get your tickets through SeatGeek and then use our promo code SCOOP. And if it's the first time you've used SeatGeek, you'll get a $10 off your first purchase. So go ahead, download that app, SeatGeek, and use our promo code SCOOP for $10 off your first purchase through the SeatGeek app. So make sure you go and do that. And like I said, Big 12 working with SeatGeek on the championship, so you know you're taken care of. Okay, so going into this game, Jalen Hurts comes out and performs really well, doesn't turn it over against Oklahoma State. Kennedy Brooks has a great game. He looks good to go. Ramondre Stevenson even came in and did well. Offensive line seems to be healthy. I'll say this, guys. R.J. Proctor really seems to have settled in now. Even if Eric Swinson's healthy, I don't think there's any reason to be playing and Swinson over Proctor.
When we were talking to Proctor yesterday, you could clearly see this is a guy that has a lot of confidence right now, and he admitted freely that it took him a while to adjust to everything that Beatenbow was throwing at him, but he's reached that point now. He is ready to roll.
Do you think that they... And I was listening back to your interview, Bob, with RJ, as far as Do you think that when they decided we're going to go more ball control, we're going to start running the ball more, he talked about how much he likes run blocking.
He loves to run block.
Was that a decision that they said, all right, we should just go with Proctor if we're going to run the ball? Because it's not I don't think it's a coincidence that he gets in the game and all of a sudden they've been really good at running the ball over the last couple of weeks. Or maybe it is a coincidence and I'm putting too much into the way that he's played, Josh.
Oh, no, I don't think there's any question. I mean, he's been really clean the last 2 games. Like I wouldn't say he's dominant or anything, but he's taken that left tackle position away from being a problem. I mean, like even after the Baylor game, we're like, guys, I don't know what they're going to do at left tackle. This is an issue. If they can find a way to the playoff, it's going to be a real problem against some of the teams they could face. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, R.J. Proctor's not going to go 60 minutes against Chase Young and win, but give him a little help. You can do some things. Maybe you can do enough to slow that down. Or at least keep it from just every play being a problem. Anyway, I don't think, though, there's any question. When you look at Oklahoma's efficiency, they're pulling from both sides. It's not, we're going to run guard tackle left or we're going to run only counter right. Like they're doing it with comfort to either direction, and I think that speaks that they're getting more comfortable with what Proctor can do.
The other thing is, I think, I don't know what's going to happen with Caleb Kelly, how much he's going to play, how much better he's going to play, I think is an even bigger question than what he's been playing. But what we do know is that Nick Benito and David Agwebu are 2 guys that are really starting to come on for this defense. And, of course, Benito had the biggest play of the game defensively last time these 2 teams met. But, Q Overton, I give it up. I mean, here we are into the regular season. I don't think I've ever taken the time. Q Overton, you had a magical year this year. I kind of ran you down a little bit, didn't believe. I've been super impressed with that kid all year long.
When you talk Agwebu, Benito, they almost evenly distributed those snaps Saturday. 33 for David, 32 for Nick. That's the first time they've really shown that trust in Agwebu, and he showed out to where you would expect it again Saturday. And if Agwebu starts playing at a high level to go with the consistency that Benito's been bringing, all of a sudden you're not as concerned about what's happening with that rush spot.
I thought OU did a pretty decent job for the most part on Lynch last time they played. The other defensive end guy, I can't remember his name now. It's escaping me. He was the guy that kind of had the day.
For who?
James Lockhart.
Lockhart,
yeah,
Lockhart to me was a lot more active than Lynch was.
Everything just happened so quickly in that first half. Like as far as turnovers, they didn't really
show.
Yeah, and it seemed like they were getting anything they wanted in the passing game. Might have to go back and watch that this afternoon just to revisit, because it was such a shit show. It was such a disaster.
It was Brewer's legs.
You're ready to
them.
just fire everybody. Everybody was fired.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just clearly at halftime. It was like, can we? I remember. I mean, Bob and I, we talked about this in the post game. Like, there was a point where we were like, can we leave? Like, would anybody care if we just left? It's 31-10. Season's over. Can we just go?
The only thing we were wondering is Lamb going to come out and play in the second half, because they need him that bad.
By the way, I will never tell a story about cookies again at halftime, ever. No matter what happens.
Turn the game around.
I think that...
I was waiting to get a full halftime food report from Stillwater.
The pretzel?
We will never... If those coaches ever see us again, they will go in the other direction without food, I think.
No, some of them want cookies.
They will send a QC to get the cookies for the group.
Do that.
Some of those are big guys, man. There's nothing wrong with wanting a cookie. It's okay.
Well, some of the bigger ones, they were the ones who thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny.
I think they all thought it was funny. It's just us. We're jackasses.
We appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah.
I mean, hashtag losing team needs cookies too. I mean, whatever.
You know what? I think that's a good point, Josh. Every losing team should get cookies at halftime.
Bunch of millennials.
Exactly. I mean, did you get orange slices, win or loss, back in the day? Yeah, you did.
No, we didn't.
Ooh.
I got drink tickets.
We got whippings
We all
and didn't eat.
We all hated the kid that brought orange slices.
Thank you. Yeah, who brought orange slices?
I'll tell you who
We
brought
gotta
orange
drink-
slices. Look at all the school shooters.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying that's. Yeah, I mean,
Pretty close, isn't it?
I could
Now
see
that you
our
look
guy
back.
becoming a school shooter.
Yeah.
See, I was the
you
kid
know what
who
it
wouldn't
is?
take the drink ticket.
The kid who brings orange slices is the kid whose mom knows he can't make friends or he gets bullied, and she's just trying to help him by giving him orange slices.
Oh, she's trying to buy friendship?
Yes, she's trying
that's
to
the worst.
buy him some friends, so he brings orange slices, and you're like, what's wrong with you? You brought a bag of syrupy fruit. Like
Orange
we're
slices.
we're trying to play baseball. We have a ball and hands, and we don't need gunk all over our hands. Like, put the orange slices away. There's not a picnic.
Orange slices were probably more soccer than anything.
Yeah. You did say the kid was getting bullied, though. That kind of leads to Eddie's theory.
I know.
I know.
But the
It's
thing
all
is,
coming together. I just brought the
thing is,
greatest theory of all time.
What ultimately happens with the orange slice kid is everyone hates him. They tell him to go away, and then he spends the entire game sitting at the end of the bench eating his own orange slices that his mom gave him.
And his white pants are all sticky and gross.
Yes.
It's just, yeah.
Get in here. We need somebody to run.
That never happened.
Because you're never getting off the bench. You're not getting on
His
base.
name was Richard.
Yeah, he sounds
and
like
everybody
a Richard.
called him Wichard. We were mean. We were kids.
Wow. This got really real there,
did.
Carrie. Like that took a turn. Like you're almost. Do you
This
want to
is-
apologize?
Wait a second.
This is how
on your
school
license, your real
shootings
name
happen.
is Richard, isn't it? We're talking about you.
My beauty plate.
You want to call Richard so you can be crossed off as people to kill list?
Oh, I might be on that list.
Put some lipstick on.
Somebody just started a high school
Done
Facebook
that
group
before.
today. I better go see if he's on there and
Oh,
apologize.
God. That means there's nothing good that's going to come out of that. I can tell you
They're
that.
wanting to do another reunion.
Yep. I knew it. I knew exactly what that was going for.
I did my 10-year. I don't know what my 20-year is going to look like. That'll be interesting. 10-year was fun. I had a good time.
Graduating from West probably won't be too many guys around.
Well, most are in prison, Eddie. What can I tell you?
Yeah, you won't have it at West, though, will you?
Oh, hell no. Like, we had it over, like, I think, off, like, Expressway. Like, we were way up on the north side.
Yeah, you had to come over to my side of town to do it.
Yep. We had Sully up the north side of town.
Well, I'll take your money. It all spends the same.
Think of all the high school, PC West high school reunions they had at Crystal's back in the day.
Well, I mean,
No, if
who
they
would
were
go to
having
that?
reunions at Crystal's, that was more of a children's place to have birthday parties. Unless it
You
was
can get a pitcher of beer, though, couldn't you?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, you can, but I don't know.
It's not what you... No.
Probably not the first thing that you
It's
thought
not
of.
like you would turn into a pedo or something.
Yeah, it's not like you're having your high school reunion at Chuck E. Cheese's, which I still recommend to go get a slice of za and a pitcher if you're hungry.
Tiffany and I have done that. We did that at one of Laney's friends' birthday parties. Like, we were just like, okay, go play. And like, we got a beer and a pizza and just hung out. It was pretty freeing.
I bet it was pretty good.
It wasn't. No, the pizza was fine. I was pleased, and the beer was cold. I mean, what are you going to complain
We
about?
talked about it before, though. I mean, you will get judged if you start going to Chuck E. Cheese to get your large pizza for the night, though. There's something.
I still have
There's
never.
something that makes that uncomfortable.
I've still never postmated myself a Chuck E. Cheese pizza.
I
just
don't
to
think
see.
that you can.
No, you can.
You can.
Yes. And
yeah.
I've heard that it's not absolutely
We
terrible.
don't need to be doing that.
You guys need
And
to
by
Pepsi
we,
challenge
anybody.
that in a post-game pod.
Well, they're not. They probably won't be open. I guess we'll do it next year. How about that?
The Chuck E. Cheese?
Exciting news. I think I may take part in this week's post-game pod. So that's big.
I don't even know how we're going to do it, really. We might have to come back here and do it.
Yeah.
Because we all want to get back, but because the game, everybody wants to watch. Well, that game will be started by the time we're done working. The SEC.
I would imagine if we
we'll
did,
miss the entire SEC game working.
Yeah.
That always happens.
Yeah.
I would imagine if we wanted to do a
Jerry
like
World's
a
big enough we could
Big
do it
12,
there, I
we could do a
guess.
short recap from Jerry World, and then we're going to have to get together Sunday, whether they make it or not.
Yeah.
Because it's either going to be a meltdown or a congratulations, you're going.
Well, we
back
won't
to the
have to
playoffs.
get together. So if they
We won't.
lose to Baylor, we won't have to get together on
Well,
Sunday.
if they lose to Baylor, we won't be doing podcasts from here on out. Forget about it.
You don't want to do one from the Sugar Bowl, Eddie?
No, I mean, it wouldn't be too bad. The good thing for Oklahoma fans is the alternative to not making the playoff is a pretty decent matchup in the Sugar Bowl. Great if they win against a pretty good SEC team. I mean,
Georgia
throw
fans
Georgia
will not
or
want to go
Florida
back
in there.
again, though, for a second year, I bet.
Oh, I mean, I think that they would go. They would have to.
They might take Florida instead.
If OU loses to Baylor and Baylor doesn't make the playoff, would OU go to the Cotton Bowl?
Yeah, in
'Cause
which
it's
case,
at large.
I'm on record saying if that happens, they should turn down a bowl bid. You don't want to go play Cincinnati or whoever.
It's the
plays.
at-large. The
Yeah.
I
Cotton
know,
Bowl's the
it would
at-large.
be
If
awful.
Memphis. It'd be OU and Memphis.
It'd be Memphis.
Or Cincinnati if they win, right?
I guess they
If
do have to
beat
play each other.
Memphis, that
There's
would,
a lot to
Unless-
be gained from that game.
that would be gross.
It could be Boise
That'd be gross.
because Boise should have jumped Cincinnati
Ugh.
when Cincinnati
They really
lost to
should have,
Memphis.
I mean, I think Memphis will
Did they?
probably win. They'll be
I like
without their head
check.
coach, though.
No, they did not. I'm saying they should have jumped
They
them.
didn't? Okay.
I don't think so.
Ed-
Go look at the thread right now.
Eddie, would Sam come back and give a motivational speech? If
Oh,
it's
if they play
Boise?
Boise?
Yeah. Listen
he
to what
didn't
these
play-
fuckers did to me.
He
No,
didn't play
they-
against Boise. Paul Thompson did.
They should do it'd be more like a
You're right.
Marcus Walker
You're
or
right.
somebody.
Marcus Walker would have to get,
Yeah. I think anybody
Paul
that watched that
Pendleton.
game that didn't celebrate a win after the pick six is just lying to themselves.
Well, I mean,
There were celebration cigarettes
it won't
flowing
happen
everywhere.
now, but I mean, Sam's hype speech would have to come against West Virginia in a bowl game. That was a beatdown.
That was
What was the West Virginia coach?
Stewart.
Bill
Bill
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah, Bill
Bill
Stewart,
Stewart's
yeah.
last stand.
He got a job out of that deal.
Now he's dead.
Boise State is ahead of Cincinnati.
But if Cincinnati
died? I
beats
missed that.
Memphis,
Yeah. I think
I
so.
see what you're saying.
I don't know if because Memphis just beat Cincy. Now they're playing again, which sounds stupid anyway.
I
But
just
if
have to
Cincinnati
think.
beats Memphis,
Yeah, we
do they
lost him in
jump?
2012, Josh.
I
Wow,
just have.
I'm
Yeah,
only
he
7
died.
years out of date.
I just have to think like one thing that's so weird about the playoff committee is their ability to keep putting a Big 12 team in there that you think is going to drop out every week.
But they didn't put Kansas State. That was the one that
I know.
A lot of people
I was
thought would be
decently
in.
surprised, and the numbers were decently surprised. Like McClintock was decently surprised that Kansas State at least didn't jump in the top
Yeah.
25 this week.
Yeah, he said he had Kansas
which-
State 21.
Which could be, if
Yeah.
you're a conspiracy theorist, could be the ultimate to get OU back in it. You
This
throw
is the
them
justification.
You
Yeah,
throw
that's what
them
I'm
back
saying,
in
yeah.
the top 25 at the end of it all. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen, but it's at the very least will be interesting.
Either
come
that
Sunday morning.
or Baylor loses and drops out of the top 25 completely.
I
I don't
would've-
even know if they have to give a top 25. Do they at the end? Or they just give the top 4.
on Sunday.
And then
Yeah,
let
they
it
give
go.
top 25.
Do they?
Like
Yeah.
if Virginia loses by 40, does Kansas State jump Virginia and Virginia is out of the 25?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But I do think that if Baylor, say Oklahoma wins, and it's nothing crazy, say they win by 2 touchdowns, I do think that Baylor would stay in the top, at least the top 13. I think you could even make an argument they stay in the top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's crazy.
Well, I mean, it would make an interesting argument because Baylor would have lost, to the best team on their schedule, which is the exact same situation Utah's in.
The cheering guide for Oklahoma is very, very easy, though. Oregon, OU, LSU.
Yeah.
Done.
OU, Oregon, LSU, you're in the college football playoff.
I think so. If you're happy with all those outcomes, you're in.
Let me ask you this. Is it just set in stone Baylor's going if Oregon and LSU both win and they beat OU?
Wouldn't it have to be?
I would think it would have to be.
Boy, I don't know how you could justify it.
But
because you'd have to put in a 2-loss team.
Let's say Wisconsin beats Ohio State in the Big Ten championship.
Then it'd be Wisconsin versus Baylor.
Yeah.
If a one-loss conference Big 12 champion couldn't
way
get
out
in
there.
over a 2-loss
hypothetical.
Big Ten champion or Ohio State, I mean, Ohio State would still get in. I think Ohio State would still get in.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, they would.
Oh, you're saying who for the 4th spot?
Right.
Wisconsin or Baylor.
I mean, if it wasn't Baylor, the Big 12, which I don't think that they have the balls and the leadership to do it, they should pull out of the entire thing.
Of the NCAA?
Yes. 100%.
Joe C. ain't doing that shit.
Well, I don't know if
lost
Joe C. would
Illinois.
do it, but, I mean, the spineless leader that is
Yeah,
Bill
Wisconsin
Bowlesby.
lost to Illinois.
Lost to Illinois.
Yeah.
You're out.
End of conversation. Like, you have 2 losses and one of them is Illinois. We don't really have anything else to say here.
I don't think any of the true chaos scenarios happen, though. I mean,
No.
sure, Wisconsin might push Ohio State, but I don't think they can beat them. I don't think.
Chase Young destroyed them the first time.
Honestly, I think the most likely thing that happens is Georgia beats LSU.
No, it's not most likely. Not at all. They can't score enough points.
From a chaos standpoint.
Oh, I see.
Just
see,
of
I
the
don't think
wild
that's-
scenarios. Yeah.
I don't think that's zero-sum game either.
Like, what would the percentage chances be that Oregon, OU, and LSU win? I wonder what the 538 or FPI or whatever those numbers would tell you.
That Oregon, LSU, and OU all win?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I got to think that's like, if it's...
Like 40%?
No, I would say like 22%, but that would still be the highest, I would say.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then, like, Utah, OU, and LSU would probably be like 19 or 17 or something like that.
That's probably fair.
Josh, do we have a little bit of time? Do you need any family talk? Christmas, anything going on there? Santa?
No, I mean,
What about recruiting?
What about Reggie Grimes?
Yeah.
Sorry, don't care about your family. I care about recruiting.
No, it's perfectly fine.
That was
Perfectly
worth
fine.
it.
No,
that was worth the trying to give you some family talk. That was definitely worth it.
No, Christmas shopping's done.
We can
Eddie,
circle.
don't worry
We can
about
circle
that,
back and do family talk.
And the show you guys saw Friday.
I'm just trying to give the listeners what they want.
With Mims versus Morris.
Yeah, I guess we could start there. Eddie was there with me. I mean, that's one of the better high school games I've seen in a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. It was exactly what you thought it was going to be. 2 really good teams. I mean, Lone Star could go on and win the state championship, and Highland Park's going to feel like that could have been us. I mean, it was that, and Eddie looked at me, what was that, about mid-third quarter, Eddie, and we kind of said, I think Highland Park's a better team here.
Yes.
Like, it just,
And
they felt like.
I still think that they are.
Yeah. It just felt like, I mean, there was a couple times. I mean, Marvin Mims didn't have a huge game, but just every once in a while, he was just a little too much for Highland Park to deal with. Like, and they were having to use 2 defenders on him at all times. And it was leaving single coverage everywhere else. And Garrett Rangel, their sophomore quarterback there at Lone Star, is a good player. I was impressed with him. But yeah, I mean, Marvin Mims, guy's just a playmaker. He made a play on the 4th down that tied it late there in the 4th quarter, or gave Lone Star the lead, put him up. I think it was 27-24, and when the ball came out of Rangel's hand, Eddie and I both said, like, I didn't think there was any way that was going to be a completed pass. There was no way, and Mims just kind of found his way through traffic and made a catch in the corner of the end zone. That was, I mean, it wasn't a great catch or anything, but it was just the fact that he won the ball.
He was the only one that tracked
surprising.
it. It was like the other 2 guys, you could tell, just didn't know where it was.
It was weird. He just responded faster to it. That's a perfect way to say it.
And he was close to having 1 foot down on that drive in the end zone. Making an unbelievable catch.
Yeah, he just about did. I always forget that Kerry can pretty much watch that with us bit by bit. But no, and then as far as Chandler Morris, he's what you think he is. I mean, it's all the cliches. He's a coach's kid. He's a tough kid. He's got moxie. He kind of, you like the way he carries himself, the way he does things. But I mean,
didn't Johnny Moxon wear number 4 too?
Yeah,
Mox was 4.
Mox. Yeah, Mox was 4. I saw no oop-de-oops, But but no, I mean, he's just a good player. He does a lot of the things. Yeah, I mean, and he makes a lot of sense for Oklahoma in this 2020 class. You can understand it. And from some of the people I talked to kind of this weekend, that's not a kid that's going to come in afraid of Spencer Rattler or Brock Vandegrift behind him. Like, if he thinks Oklahoma's the best situation for him, I think he'll go in there and think, I can win this job. Like, I just think that's the way he's wired.
Should Chandler and Chad Morris be seen as a package deal?
That's a good question.
I really don't think so, and part of it is because I can never remember, and Bob may know it because Bob is just better at these sort of things than I am. There's some sort of rule that like if the coach is hired, then the player can't be, or if the player is signed, then the coach can't come. There's some sort of sequential order, and I don't know if it applies to his situation because, I mean, it's dad, so I don't know exactly how that works, and so I won't claim that I do, but there are some connection issues there that I think they would have to clear up some red tape on.
You know, it's interesting because obviously Texas is going after a lot of people, but Graham Harrell's a guy that's been brought up. But then you've got, is it Purdy at LSU?
Brady?
Joe Brady?
Yeah.
Joe Purdy is a musician.
Brock Purdy plays for Iowa State.
I'm thinking
Team
of
that
We've come full
team
circle.
that severely underwhelmed, and their coach still gets all this national attention.
Boy, that is crazy. Isn't Matt Rule or Matt
Campbell.
You got
Damn,
this.
my God.
You got this.
I have had very little sleep. Matt Holliday. I did it. I screwed it up again. Matt Campbell. Yeah, I mean, God, between Florida State not giving up on Bob Stoops and then everybody and their dog going after Matt Campbell, I think he got an extension to like 2050 yesterday.
All I'm saying is, I think he's a really good coach. Let's pump the brakes on making him the next just major deal in college football.
Yeah.
They underwhelmed severely this year.
There is a severe lack of, not creativity, but just a lack of insight into young, up-and-coming coaches, right? Like, more than I've ever seen.
Well,
and maybe it's because more people don't let coaches near the media and stuff.
That might be a little bit of it. I think that a lot of it is just everybody wants to crown. If one team has a really good season, everybody wants to crown, this is the next Lincoln Riley. Or, this is the next big thing in college football. When in reality,
well, the NFL
maybe
did
he
that.
just had a bunch of really good
Zach
players.
Taylor, I mean.
Yeah, everybody wants the next Sean McVay, the next Zach Taylor, next.
Well, there's no next Zach Taylor yet. The Bengals kind of suck.
Yeah, but I mean, like the next up and coming offensive mind. Back to recruiting.
Sorry, we derailed you.
No,
Chad Morris. But we
fine.
were talking about Chad Morris and Chan. No, I just thought like if Harrell gets involved in the Texas job and that USC job opens, I'd be curious if that doesn't become, something Chad Morris looks at, and then something Chandler Morris looks at.
That's an interesting idea. I hadn't really thought about
So
that.
he did
but you're
get
right.
the
I mean,
USC offer a couple weeks ago.
because I've heard more than one person say Graham Harrell is there. He's going to have to tell Texas no before Texas moves somewhere else. So that's a big. I mean, because I think you see North Texas fell off a little bit this year offensively. They weren't quite the same team, and USC, in spite of three different starting quarterbacks, kind of. I mean, USC wasn't terrible this year. They just weren't.
I think it's insane that they're thinking about keeping Helton, but
I do too.
or not even thinking about it.
They're reportedly going to, yeah.
But wouldn't they have to rehire him since he got fired?
That have you seen that guy's account? He has gone ghost. Like he is.
I'll give him credit.
That.
He's left up the original report though. He hasn't.
He tweeted
it.
something here recently. The latest on USC, Clay Helton.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he credited Football Scoop for saying that he was staying. Or that they were keeping him.
Yikes!
That's a nightmare scenario. See, I'm not one to make fun of that stuff because I know I'm not saying that I would ever make a mistake that big, but you're just one screw up away from just becoming a national joke.
Yep.
I think it was also a case of people were looking for a reason to go after a certain publication.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, sure.
People were specifically national guys that had friends that were, for a lack of better terms, f***ed over by SI.
Yeah.
So I think everybody was just willing and ready once they saw that it was the Maven that go.
Then once SI fought.
But the problem is
SI report.
Pat Forty went to go work for them, left Yahoo Sports to go work for them, and then he's refuting the story. Like, he works for Sports Illustrated, and he's refuting a story from someone that is employed by Sports Illustrated.
They're aggregating
and then they're aggregating that Pat Forty is reporting that our guy is wrong. Like, we're telling you, here's a story about us telling you that our report is wrong.
That's a lot to unpack, isn't it?
Without us actually crediting ourselves as being wrong. We're just crediting ourselves as being right now.
Like, there was no retraction. It wasn't like, now that's just what you do. You aggregate. You get someone else in the company to say that this guy was wrong, and you don't be like, we regret to report that our report was wrong. I mean, like...
Well, you get A to report it incorrectly, B to correct the incorrect report, and C and D to talk about the whole thing.
Love it.
Boom.
I mean, nailed it. That
profit.
Clicks everywhere. Yeah, yes. Result, profit.
While your
investors, possibly you.
Then your guy's getting ratioed on Twitter the entire time.
Yeah, you got to pick who's going to be the sacrificial lamb. Who's going to be A? Who's going to die here?
No, the most vicious thing I saw, though, was the Bruce Feldman tweet that followed up his initial report when he said, source at USC told me the only person getting fired is probably the guy who reported that.
That's a salty little line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, especially coming from Feldman, who always comes off as a really nice guy. Like, that was like Hulk and just slamming the body around. Like, you need a little meme to go with it. But no, I guess we can try to get back to recruiting here a little bit. Yeah, with Chandler Morris, everybody. With Chandler Morris, everybody I talked to, Oklahoma is the likely choice. The school that I keep hearing to watch out for is Virginia Tech, and I don't really know why. I don't really understand it, but there does seem to be some connection there, and I get the impression that there is kind of some mutual respect between Fuente and Chad Morris, so I think that plays a role. But if you were betting today, I think Oklahoma is definitely the bet you make.
And Josh,
but again, the USC thing gets interesting.
Josh, would it be a safe assumption that Morris would show up next weekend?
That's my bet. I haven't been able to confirm that. He's kind of said, I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to kind of come to this decision. I don't know how that's going to work. But you would think that if Oklahoma can bring him in for an official visit next weekend, really, obviously Jalen will be off doing the Heisman thing. I mean, there's a lot that they can kind of package that weekend with, and maybe they can convince him to sign early and have that kind of done and out of the way and all that. You don't know. There's a lot in the air with him because, like we said, it's not just about him. What's his dad going to do? How does that impact is he dead set on, if my dad gets a job, I'm going to go wherever he goes? I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts within that decision. So we'll have to watch that. But like I said, I think Oklahoma's in a good spot. We're going to have to see where a couple other chips fall, though.
Do you think there's any chance that Oklahoma sends Spencer Rattler to New York instead of Jalen just for the experience? Because like we said earlier, it helps to have been there before. Spencer Rattler's here. We don't know why. He's Lincoln Riley's plus OU
one.
OU fans wanted Jalen benched, so they just sent Rattler instead. Maybe.
Hey, if Grant Calcaterra can show up with Baker, then Spencer Rattler can show up with Hurts.
That's very true. How does
I go ahead?
I was just gonna say, how does the somewhat extra scholarships factor into this 2020 class? Is it too late to do anything with that? And just kind of your overall thoughts on where that is as far as the program goes with Michael Thompson's departure.
Well, and I think that's something that it gets confused sometimes because, when I do my commit predictions each month and, put them in the scoop and all that, I'm usually factoring those things in. Like, I expect these changes to come. And this year, I was more aggressive because we've been talking about it since June or July that there were going to be departures. That was coming. Like, we knew it. It's already started to happen. I expect a few more. I mean, those things are all possible. So I don't think anything at this point is really going to impact 2020. I think it would be more, okay, we can get more aggressive with 2021 and do some things there. I don't think, Oklahoma's just never been that school, whether it was under Bob or under Lincoln. They don't want to throw scholarships at just somebody unless they have to. Dylan Fa'amatu, that was we have to have somebody. They needed a body so bad. And I mean, that's not a dig at Dylan, but, they might have just held on to that scholarship if they didn't need another defensive tackle just for practice purposes. I mean, they just did not have enough bodies to make that work. So they really try to avoid doing that because then you're beholden to that guy for at least a couple years before you can kind of convince him, hey, this probably isn't going to work out. And, honestly, we never thought it was gonna. We needed you here just to help us out. That's just a tough reality. But I think when you look at guys like Justin Harrington, and honestly, it's going to shock people, and we'll get into his conversation in a second. Reggie Grimes was a guy that Oklahoma absolutely wanted to take. They just didn't know if they were going to have the numbers to do so. I mean, I think people just assume like, oh yeah, OU was always taking him. I don't know. Like, I think it worked out to their advantage that they had a few of these come in early, so they kind of had a better idea of what numbers were really going to be so that they could make that decision, because I don't know if he'd have wanted to commit in early October, if that would have been possible, just because they wouldn't have been sure that they could have made that work without, okay, well, we can't take Josh Eaton, or we can't take Dante Manning, or we can't, where they have, frankly, bigger needs. So Grimes was a little bit of a luxury. Harrington, I think, is made possible by some of the transfers. So, again, it's some of the, we're looking at 24-25, and that's what I've been talking about in the commit predictions for months. And Oklahoma, I can deal in the hypothetical. They have to deal with, this is what we actually have at this moment, and we don't know if Jaquaylin Crawford's going to go or if he's going to stay. We can't just assume that, because then we get bound to a guy that we can't keep.
Do you think that they go, I don't want to say like around the table, but I think they probably have a pretty good idea on who's going and who's staying, don't you?
I do.
Talking about the coaches?
Yeah. You mean the NFL go declare early?
No,
not only that, but transfer portal, all
Yep.
that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I think everybody.
Well, when they're kicking them out the door, they kind of.
Yeah, but everybody kind of knows the score on Jordan Parker, don't we?
Like Robert Barnes, Jordan Parker, Chance Sylvan. Like, these guys aren't like.
But I mean, think about it. Like, I completely agree, Eddie. They do, but there's always that guy like PJ Mbonassor. We talk about him forever. They knew Mbonassor was not going to be a role guy for them pretty early on, and he just kept hanging around. And finally, they were like, go.
I kind of think this group would be different in that they don't really have a connection with a lot of these guys in a way, and it's easier for an Alex Grinch to say, you know what, come in my office for a second. Let's talk about your future here in Norman.
There is
or lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I get that they can have an idea, and again, I'm working on the numbers that I have because I think things like that are going to happen. I certainly won't, but I mean, like, Jaquaylin Crawford's a good example. They moved him to corner because they wanted him to have a chance. They're like, this guy's a great athlete. Surely we can do something with him here, but the light just never went on for him.
Yeah.
He just never saw the urgency in it, and you can't predict those things. And at the same time, they may have thought, well, Robert Barnes is going to see that we're not playing him at all at safety, and our safety situation isn't that special anyway. Surely he's going to see the writing on the wall, but Robert Barnes hadn't announced anything yet.
Let us help you is basically what they're saying. And if the light doesn't come on, there's only so much you can do about it. I mean, they have to worry about themselves.
Yep. No, I mean, nobody's going to be like, well, OU just had to deal with all those guys and wait until they graduated. Now we've given Alex Grinch 4 years. Nobody's on that timeline. I mean, except for apparently the athletic director at Texas.
It's very odd because, I mean, like you look at Parnell Motley's a guy that has obviously really taken to this coaching staff. He's become a better player. And you look across the field and it seems like Trey Brown has gotten worse. And maybe that's harsh.
No,
not worse, but he certainly hasn't gotten consistent.
Okay. Yep.
I would say in a way,
not making plays anymore.
Yeah.
Like if you could say anything about Trey Brown the last couple of years, the guy in big moments he'd make a play. That OSU game, you look at last year against the last 2 years against OSU, he's made great plays. And this year he was the weak link in that secondary. I thought Pat Fields and Turner Yell actually played pretty good games.
Except for the one-on-one but that's not your fault. You get one-on-one with Dylan Stoner. And
Dylan Stoner's a good player.
That's a massive matchup problem.
I would think that, specifically with the secondary, you look at a guy like Buki Radley-Hiles. I would think he's a perfect example of the guys that if you're Alex Grinch or you're Roy Manning, you're taking around and you're saying, this is what we did with this guy. Look how bad he was a year ago.
Look how much the fans hated this guy.
They wanted his scholarship removed, and he probably is coming off of his best game of his career.
And a story coming up on Scoop.
But,
how about that?
And I will say...
you're using the podcast
there you
to
go.
promote
I like it. I like it.
Promote our content.
I like it.
You acted like there was something wrong with it. That's what we're here for. You're like sheepishly like...
That's something you can yell about.
Yeah.
Bob. Scream it.
That's what we're here for.
But to defend, I mean, like, the reality...
Bob just did one of those things where he, like, put his hand in front of his neck to carry, like he was slicing his neck
That's
open.
why he won't come in here
that
for
was
awkward boss
super
talk.
crazy. I did not expect that.
It's gotten dark. But no, guys, on that first drive Oklahoma State had, I must have gotten 10 tweets about they should bench Buki. Bench him. He missed a tackle. And I'm like, every time he misses a tackle, it's like front page news. If anybody else does it, no, take that back. If he or Kenneth Murray miss a tackle, the world shuts down.
But they don't kill Jaden Davis, even though he's had some horrible missed tackles.
Oh, yeah. He's had bigger problems over the last month than Buki has. But he started off strong, so everybody just assumes he's great.
I think it's fair to say, and I'm not saying that there's not going to be any faults with this coaching staff defensively, but if you are 12 games in now and you don't believe that they're headed in the right direction or that you can't trust Alex Grinch or Brian Odom or Roy Manning or Calvin Thibodeau or even, Ruffin McNeil, if you can't trust these guys at this point, like you're looking for reasons not to.
Yep.
Don't you? I mean, even Ruffin, for as much shit as he's gotten,
Benito and
Aguebu played pretty well when they've gotten their chances.
And he made John Michael Terry a serviceable player who we thought was just another kid that we were waiting for him to be
like you are PTSD, come from a broken home type mental fucked up.
Let's start a thread. When do we get rid of Ruffin now? Like, oh my God.
My favorite thread on the board this week was coaching changes.
Yes,
they're 11-1, and these people want wholesale changes.
Was it
they didn't
that
want,
way?
They want Ruffin out,
or was it more that they think maybe Shane Beamer might be poached? Because I know that definitely is running.
You
around.
watch your goddamn mouth. He's not going anywhere. No.
See the ODU thing. I mean,
I
if you
not.
can be a head coach,
just one more year.
Take it, but he's at Oklahoma to learn from Lincoln Riley.
Sure.
Like he left a job at Georgia for goodness sakes. I mean, like he's here for bigger things. I would think. ODU.
I think Oklahoma fans would. One more year with this whole group together, I think could be very fun.
Yeah.
And who's to say
that would include Ruffin? He's fine.
Yeah, everybody.
There's no reason.
Bring the whole band back. I'd be okay with that. But if Ruffin McNeil decides to retire at the end of the year, I don't think that anybody would just be necessarily heartbroken either.
No.
From a recruiting standpoint.
I was going to say, I think the biggest, and then that's the hard thing for people to see because it's not, I mean, people are like, well, there's, look at the guys in these recruiting classes. I mean, Aguebu came in last year. Ruffin McNeil didn't have anything to do with Agwebu. Like that wasn't really a situation. Ruffin McNeil didn't have anything to do with Nick Bonito being recruited. Like, and I get that at those point in time he was at a different position. That's fine. I understand that. But it's the part that's hard for people to see. But you can't argue, like you guys are saying. I mean, the group that he is on paper responsible for is playing really well.
Is there any, Josh or Bob, is there a name, and you don't have to say it, the name, actual name, but do you think over the next 2 weeks there will be a name that emerges that, and it seems like this happens every year, that you go, oh my God, I cannot believe that Oklahoma is going to have a chance with this guy going into National Signing Day?
It feels like we already shot our shot with Reggie Grimes. Like, I can't believe
Alfred Collins is in the same boat.
Yeah, and I would
we're past that.
Yeah, I would even consider that more of a we already know about that name, like from out of the blue type thing.
Right.
I already know who it is.
There was a name I'd heard.
Why are you laughing?
Following Texas Week. Oh God.
What?
Do you have a name?
Do you have a name?
Who?
Transfer portal. Tua Tagovailoa.
See, that's why I'm laughing.
I knew I couldn't do his name. I have to say it first and screw it up before I can say it.
I don't know.
Tagovailoa.
I think his dad beats him.
Oh my God. We got really dark.
I don't know what's in the air over there, but I mean, Bob's sending signals of hate to Carrie. We've got talk of parental abuse. I mean, it's.
I think Eddie's drinking a peppermint latte.
It's been well documented. This isn't peppermint. This is vanilla.
So anyway, no surprise. You were about to name somebody, Josh, before I derailed that.
No. There's nobody that jumps out at me, but I guess, like I said, I know what's going to happen. We'll end up not talking about it. The Reggie Grimes commitment, that's a huge deal for Oklahoma. For him, for going to land a guy like that in Tennessee, for the people that don't really follow him from the beginning, this guy was a 5-star on Rivals at one point, and he has that kind of ability. I was telling Eddie the other day, when we were hanging out at AT&T, Reggie Grimes is a guy that as a freshman in high school ran a 200 meters that would finish in the top 6 in the state of Oklahoma last year at the state championships.
Jeez.
That's insane. And he's 6'5", 230 pounds. Like, I mean, you're talking about a freakish athlete. Now, the reason Oklahoma was probably able to go in and get him, because his father is a Alabama alum, played at Alabama. Like, there's all these things that made you think it was going to be Alabama.
Is because Jared Falwell was a bad bag man.
Well, I mean, obviously there is that. I mean, we have to give our credit to the reporting bag man. But, no, I mean, the production's not always there. So Oklahoma kind of got to sneak in, and it's like I've talked about before with guys like this. The risk is worth the reward. The reward is a possible first-round draft pick. I mean, he has that sort of high-end athleticism. But the risk is that you're going to get a guy that maybe play in and play out isn't there. Yeah.
Oh my God! Now, you went Ron Tatum on him?
Yeah, that's a little harsh. I don't think his motor's on that particular low rung of the ladder. But I mean, he is. I mean, there is some of that. There is some boom or bust quality to him. But I mean, like I said, Reggie Grimes is a kid that grew up. His dad's around football. I don't think the floor is as low as it is with Ron Tatum, and I think the ceiling is higher. But it's a comparison you can make.
National Signing Day, the first one, really the only one that counts.
2
coming
weeks.
Up December 18th.
2 weeks.
We've had our Cyber Monday special going on the website. Glad that so many people jumped on that. And if you're listening to the podcast and you took the opportunity to jump on that, like so many did, we appreciate you. I would keep an ear to the ground. We may have another special coming up here for you leading up to signing day. So make sure if you want to subscribe to the Scoop, check it all out. Check out being able to have access to the message boards where you can contact any of us 24/7 and get a lot of inside information, a lot of videos you don't get to see anywhere else. From Eddie on there as well. You got all the Woklahomas and what else we got? The
Scoop
itself.
Yep.
Just foregoing that, Eddie's. What do you call yours, Eddie?
I don't do it anymore.
You don't do it anymore. Bob's got the illegitimate son of Scoop. So, see, I know what's going on. I know your stuff.
And for people Carrie's right. We're kind of hearing word that there may be another promo coming. You can also gift a subscription. We've got stuff where you can do.
Yeah, that's a great gift for people
1 month,
during the
3
holidays.
months, 6 months. You can kind of pick what your price point is for OU fan that you know or like, or the one you don't like and just want to give them something. That's fine. We'll
Shut
take
'em up.
we'll take your unwanted friends. Bring them on. So. Yeah, so that's always there available.
It's an
you
easy
can do a lot
way
of
to
different
tell
stuff.
your friends stop bugging me about OU football. Go bug these guys.
That is correct.
Wish I could give one of those to my best friend.
That's my family get-togethers. When I'm with my family,
Yeah,
I wish I could just give them all a subscription. They wouldn't talk to me about anything.
But they wouldn't use it. They would just wait until they saw you and bug you about it again.
It's not untrue. And we all know that pain. We all live that life.
We've all got one of those people in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you guys want to hit on before we get out of here?
How's your family doing, Josh?
You don't give a shit, Eddie. This is going to be that thing, like a fantasy football thing. I'm going to start telling you about it like I don't care. I hear you.
No, I
what's
do.
coming,
I
Eddie.
just was getting to recruiting stuff.
No. We like I said,
We'll have
the
plenty
big
of time to
news,
talk about
Christmas
Laney
shopping's
and
done.
holidays. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Yep. We got stories already
Especially
coming.
if this Big 12 game goes to shit.
Oh yeah, we'll need some filler.
All right. Well, the post-game podcast will be on after the game. It will be very short if OU loses because we'll want to get the hell out of there. Actually, we might not want to. We might not even care about watching the SEC game. Then we'll be openly rooting for Georgia. If OU loses,
Why not?
Just bring the chaos.
I like pissing people off.
Eddie's thinking about it.
I don't know. It probably depends on who I end up batting on.
I got you. All right. Well, thanks to all you guys. It's week number 13. My God, it's been an unbelievable season. Still not over yet. Baylor, Big 12 Championship. Remember, go to SeatGeek. Use that promo code SCOOP for $10 off your first order. Also, midfirst.com/U40. Go sign up at MidFirst. And keep an eye out on Sooner Scoop. If you didn't take advantage of Cyber Monday, we're probably going to have another big deal coming up here before signing day that you can take advantage of as well. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll see you guys back here next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.